There you go. Hey, look. Alright, calm down. Look in. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very, very sorry that I have to start off the video like this, but you're probably on the screen right now. This is probably you. And although my audience is very much in the intelligent quotient of the world, 99% of people are retarded, and you probably fall into this category as well. The good news is that you're still complete. You're still not broken. Your soul is sacred. You've been created in the image of God, and God loves you. It's just you not taking care of yourself, the temple that is your body. That's the reason that you're retarded right now. And the silver lining in that is that we can easily fix that. I assume it's no surprise to you that there's a bunch of studies going around nowadays that are literally seeing incredible increases in poor mental health and everything that comes with it. Anxiety, insomnia, overthinking, all of that, always increasing since the 90s essentially. This is a study that I was recently reading where they traced it back to the 93s even, so early. And this was a 9.3 million N study, meaning there were so many participants. This is one of the biggest studies, and they found a very, very significant increase in poor mental health. So, I mean, it's just a fucking fact by now. It begs the question, and we can cheap out, we can give it these fucking plain answers like, oh, social media is bad for your mental health. Why? Why is it bad for your mental health? Oh, sugar is... Bitch, is sugar bad for my mental health? Maybe indirectly, but I don't think so. What's exactly like the root cause of this? How can we observe from afar and actually realize why it is and actually like remove ourselves from this situation? We can watch all the normies be retards and actually be smart ourselves. How can we do that? I was recently reading a book called Letting Go by David R. Hawkins, and it changed my perspective on this whole industry. So before, what I thought was, people end up like this because they play video games, because they scroll on their phones too much, because they eat the wrong stuff, but it's not actually the case. They go to those things, they start doing the bad habits because they feel down. It looks a bit more like this. You get the negative emotion and then you start to cope, and this coping mechanism doesn't actually address the issue. Carl Jung has this famous quote where he says, what you resist persists, and it can't be more true. Every single time you have a negative emotion or a negative thought, a negative state of mind as a whole, and you don't have the correct mechanism to cope with it, you're essentially just bringing more of that negative state of mind onto yourself. So every single time you cope, you're actually just suppressing the emotion. And I really want you to think about what an emotion is here and why it would be disadvantageous to suppress it. An emotion is a signal to your body to act in a certain way. If I feel fear, I'm going to run away from the lion because I'm scared of it. If I feel hungry, I'm going to eat because I need more electrolytes, I need more calories, I need more energy in my body. So essentially, what emotions are signals. And every single time we numb it out, we suppress it, we cope, and we choose this mechanism that makes us feel good now, but doesn't actually address the root cause. That root cause only grows, it only becomes magnified. Is this all making sense to you? So the author of this book, David Hawkins, suggests one path, and this is the only path in his opinion, and that is the path of surrender. You can't run away, you can't distract, you can't push it back, you can't do any of those things. The only thing you can do is to choose to surrender to it, is to feel it in its entirety and let it go as it wants to. The reason I had a chronic video games addiction, and I didn't really want to admit to this to myself because it's a bit embarrassing, but it really was chronic. I was playing like 14 hours a day for years. The reason I did that was because I had no clout, I had no social status, I had no interest from girls, I had no respect from other men, and it was just not a nice existence, and I was constantly in this state of, sadness in the real world. And I had two choices. I could have surrendered to those emotions and let them communicate to me and be like, hey, we're feeling like this, we feel like we're on the bottom of the social hierarchy, we feel like we're not getting, the feelings and the thoughts and the just living situation which we want. And then I could have, maybe started to think about solutions. Solution number one, maybe get in the gym. Solution number two, maybe invest into books on how to get girls, or I don't know. Just, I would start actually, getting from 1 to 2, getting from A to B, because I actually understood that I could listen to this emotion. Or I could choose to disassociate, to act like it's not there. And disassociation was probably the biggest coping mechanism of mine. My whole childhood looks like that. I'm not even tapped into my emotions. I just act like bad things aren't happening. And I go home and I play my video games. I also read Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score, which is a book on trauma. And he says that even neglect and even like these like mundane, not so hype and not so talked about stuff are forms of trauma. Essentially, if you have a bad experience and you choose to cope and you don't listen to it, your mind is being altered in a way where you're teaching yourself to not listen to your emotions. That is a form of trauma. I want you to understand that that is a form of rewiring your brain for the worse. Every time you fail to surrender to your emotions, you're stepping one step closer to rotting your brain, to not being able to tackle your problems. And this leads to all of this shit, by the way. All of this shit, I mean, down here. It leads to poor mental health, anxiety, overthinking, most importantly, hopelessness. The part of your brain which is responsible for critical thinking and, problem solving, it either gets shut down or it gets put into the wrong things. It gets put into your coping mechanism. The only thing you're critically thinking about is to build diamond leggings or to save up one more diamond and to build like a fucking diamond chest plate. That's not the stuff you need to be thinking about, bro. And I wish I could tell my younger self this. As soon as I started to think about the solutions and to surrender to my emotions and actually just fucking lied in my bed and cried about it, I started to better myself. I started to get into the gym. I started to read hella books. I started to get into entrepreneurship, and it wasn't nice. I'm never going to lie to you on this channel. It wasn't a nice fucking experience, but I am where I am because I did this. But even recently, after I've, done all of this, not to say that I'm in such an amazing position, right? I'm still fucking human after all. But I still felt like I wasn't surrendering to my emotions enough. I still felt chronic insomnia. Every single time I put my head to the pillow, I thought for like 80 minutes. My average time on my Aura ring, I used to have this ring that tracked my health statistics, it was like 80 minutes of sleep latency. That's incredibly high. The average is about 8 to 10 minutes. And it got me wondering why. Where throughout my day am I disassociating so much? Where am I not taking care of myself and of my mental? And that led me to more like Freudian and Jungian knowledge about, the subconscious and how the mind works. And only after a few months did I learn that this is how my mind looked at the time. It's like, if you've played a video game before, this is fog of war, which pretty much means that this is here, but you just don't know what it is because there's this fog here. The way your mind works, just to put a bit of clarity onto this, is you have a big-ass mind, and about, the best estimates are about 5% of this is your conscious mind. So we're going to call this CM. That's not sentiment for all you horny motherfuckers. And this is, your subconscious mind. The rest of it, I'm not going to write that out. The problem is, if your CM, your conscious mind, what you're thinking, essentially, your thoughts, what's occupying your neocortex, is consisting from external things. I just looked at Twitter and bam, CR7 did the Sue and he just scored a goal against some Saudi opposition. Congrats, Cristiano. And then you look at outside the tram window, let's say you're traveling and you see a woman who's like relatively attractive. And, she's smiling at you because you're so handsome. And then, you're going about your day, and then you open up the news and you actually see that, this big politician man, he's stealing a lot of money from the poor, and damn, I should be angry about that. And the thing is, all of this, what's in here, what's in your subconscious mind, this is what's actually you, by the way. This is not you, this is not you, and this is not you. These are the thoughts that you forget. These are the thoughts that don't really consist of any growth for you. You get this thought, and it's gone 5 seconds later, and you've just wasted energy on it. This shit is fucking important, and you don't have any idea who you are. Back in the day, you went hunting, and there was a boar, let's say. And there's the boar, and you kill it. Now the boar's dead. What ends up happening to this dead boar is that it gets eaten. But it only gets eaten after you go back to your camp, which is 3 hours away. And guess what? You don't have TikTok. You can't look at Brooke Monk's dancing new fashion trends video. If you can tell, I don't know what goes on TikTok, but you can't watch that shit. I'm sorry, you can't. All you have is this heavy-ass boar on your shoulder and your conscience and maybe the friends that you're going on the trip with, if that. So what you're going to do on this way back is you're going to emotionally regulate. If this is the subconscious of Mr. Caveman here, and this is the conscious mind of Mr. Caveman, sure, he's going to get some external cues. He's going to step on a twig, and it's going to snap. And let's just pretend that snapped. Oh, fuck, that's a horrible drawing. The twig snaps, whatever. I'm not going to draw a twig. I don't know how to do that. He's like, okay, that's a nice crack. He's going to walk, and then he's going to see a nice stream in the river. He's going to be like, wow, that's nice. But for 3 hours, that's not a lot of stimulation. That's nothing to fill your mind with. That's going to leave you pretty still on the emotional spectrum. So realistically, what's going to end up happening is his brain is going to give him thoughts. This, by the way, is what you experience when you say the concept shower thoughts. This is what you experience in the shower. That's one of the very, very few experiences nowadays in the modern man's life when you don't have much external stimuli. Other instances of this would be, for example, my example of going to sleep. When I put my head to the pillow, I can't fall asleep because I'm so doomed in the head. I'm thinking these kind of thoughts because there's not much stimulation. Also, one of them, which we've got taken from us in the past 5-10 years, is going to the toilet, because now everyone's on the toilet with their phone. So this guy, every day for hours and hours and hours, had this experience where his thoughts, his relationships with others, his thoughts about reality, the world, philosophy, conscience, everything that he knew were coming up, and he was eradicating the fog of war from his own mind map. So I'm going to be a bit vulnerable here, and it might be a bit disgusting as well, but like when I was young, I had chronic gut pain. I had chronic, I had diarrhea every single morning. I felt very sick often, and we didn't know why it was. And we went a bunch to gastroenterologists. That's the guy who looks at your stomach and your gut and tells you what's wrong with it. And they never found anything. They told me to go on the fructose diet to look at my histamine levels and all of that shit, which all of it I did, and nothing changed. And one day after the 5th visit or 6th visit, and God, it was a long process, my mother asked me, "Are you stressed by any chance?" God bless her. And I, hand on my heart, I told her I wasn't. I was disassociating to such a level where I had convinced myself that everything was fine, where I wasn't stressing. Hand on heart, I actually thought that was the truth. My mind literally looked like this. Every single time there was a negative experience and I was stressing, I'd just tell myself it didn't happen. I just wasn't in reality. I wasn't emotionally there, although I was physically there. Like the intro of American Psycho, although you can see flesh, I'm just not here, or some shit like that. That's exactly me, not in a good way. Every single time I got into a stressful situation, I would always cope. I could never feel the feeling. I would either disassociate, or if I could, I would get my phone out, start scrolling, play video games, whatever, to avoid these negative thoughts about myself and negative feelings. And as we said, what you resist persists. All of this shit amplified to the fucking moon, and I felt so bad, physically and mentally. This was my life, and I wasn't even aware that I had a problem. Imagine that, you're not even aware of a fucking problem you have. Whereas this guy, just to drill this point in, if he's spending this much time to himself and he's thinking about the stuff that he's doing, he's gonna know. He's got a pretty good understanding of himself. And if you think about it, when you put your heads down onto the pillow, or when you get into the shower, the first things that start coming up to you are like, oh damn, I should have said something different to that girl who I was talking to. You replay these kind of scenes in your mind, and these kind of surface level things come up. But if you do this for an extended period of time, watch what happens, by the way, because it's really crazy. If you've heard of Vipassana before, it's a form of meditation. What they do is they have these 7-day retreats, which are free, by the way. You can literally type this into your search bar right now and check out if you have one near you happening. These are 7-day retreats, 7-day meditation retreats, where you have pretty much nothing. You eat only vegetable, very little calories, no eye contact, no other people of different genders, and all you do is meditate all day. The best thing you can do is walk around in the park, and that's for 1 hour. Don't quote me on this because I'm not 100% sure, but about 85 to 90% of people who attend these start bawling their fucking eyes out. They start crying so heavily. Every time you actually give yourself time to process your emotions and your thoughts, that's what ends up happening. All of these suppressed things which lead you to, all of these things which are stored up inside of you. The body keeps the score. That's why it was the title of a book. It really does. It really does. It gets stored up inside of you and it ends up amplified. Again, what you resist persists. What ends up happening is all of this is still inside of you in one way or another. This is why people experience so much mental health disorders nowadays. Chronic overthinking, anxiety, depression. And I'm not saying this is a one-size-fits-all solution. I'm not saying this will cure every single woe in history, but I do think, based on all of the stuff that I've read and all of these research papers that I've encountered over the few years, of my past kind of trajectory on actually caring about this stuff, I genuinely do think if people actually just became a bit more aware of their mind and gave themselves more time, we would live in a such better world for ourselves and for others as well. When you give yourself time, stuff will start coming up from the deepest parts of your psyche. Why this thing happened to you in your childhood, why you think of that person in this type of way, how it happened, how it made you feel. And you know, this is mostly an entrepreneurship-based channel, although I talk about like advanced psychology and productivity concepts. This is the thing that will get you to the next level of your business oftentimes. Especially if you're under like 100K and you have 1 or 2 employees, or maybe even none. You're the biggest shareholder in the business. You're the biggest part of the business. If you can actually unlock the next level by not being overwhelmed, by not being anxious, by not having emotional outbursts onto your employees or potential clients, by not letting your emotions control you, which is exactly what will happen if you don't fucking do this, you're going to become cooked. You're going to hit a glass ceiling and you're never going to be able to scale. So what can we do to actually become aware of us and to eradicate, to erase all of this fog of war that we have in our minds? To finally get the knowledge of ourselves, which is the most important knowledge out there. Fucking nothing. 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 That's what you have to do. You have to do nothing. It's going to become scary. In the beginning, nothing is going to become a scary thing because you're not going to be able to do it. I promise you this. You're not going to be able to sit on your ass for 1 hour a day. It's not going to happen. When you start sitting on your ass, you're going to like crave so much dopamine. You're going to be craving this because your day looks like this. And when you do nothing, it's going to be looking like this and your brain's going to be screaming at you, telling you, why are we not doing this thing? If this kind of dopamine thing and how to make the hard things and the good things feel easy interests you, then watch my latest video. It should be popping up. But the point is, it's going to be really, really tough for you. And that's just God's honest truth. But if you do this, if you start with baby steps such as not taking your phone to the toilet, not using your waterproof phone in the shower, not listening to music before you go to bed, not watching YouTube videos, just giving yourself that micro moments every single day. Those few micro moments which we used to have, which we pretty much don't even have nowadays, give yourself those back first. That's the very first step. What I do personally is I schedule myself at least 30 minutes of nothing every single day. I promise you, the reason I outwork you is because I'm fine with doing nothing. This is what most people's lives look like. If this is work, and this is nothing, they are always between here. They're never actually totally working and they're never doing nothing. They're just going like this. Whenever you're over here, you feel like, I'm overwhelmed. God, I've worked for so much. Whenever you're here, you're like, fuck, why am I not working? I promise you, if you can move more like this, you're like not doing anything. Fuck it. Okay, let's work. You pull the blinds down. You shut out any distractions. You tell your roommate that you're going to be working. You work for 3 hours. Then you lie back down on the couch. You don't do fucking nothing, and you're fine with it, and you're doing it without any guilt. You will be so much more sharp. You will be so much more locked in, so much more emotionally clear, energetic, and so much better as an entrepreneur or as a person in the first place. It all starts with giving yourself permission. When you're doing nothing, do nothing. Okay, give yourself permission to do whatever the fuck you want that isn't actually work. Don't have any guilt in it. And when you're doing nothing, I mean, you can do whatever you want, right? You can watch videos, you can, etc., etc. But make some of that nothing actually nothing, okay? So if you're, doing nothing, you're not working, you're in this kind of relax state for 6 hours a day, make sure that at least preferably one, but you're not going to be able to do one in the beginning. So just a few minutes in the beginning are actually doing nothing. Lie down on your fucking couch, stare at the wall. I have a painting on my wall, and I've become so accustomed to it, I promise you this, I'm not good at drawing, but I could get quite a 90% accurate sketch onto my laptop if I were to actually draw it. I've looked at it so much that it's imprinted into my visual brain, because that's just what I do. That's the way my couch is facing. I just sit down and I see that painting and I just fucking stare at it. It's weird advice, I swear, and you don't have to take it if you don't want to, but this is the type of stuff that will actually take you to the next level. If you've watched this far, you're clearly an intelligent person, and you're clearly not as retarded as I made you out to be in the beginning of the video. But if you actually want to have a clear mind once and for all, and stop this constant state of neediness for validation, stimulation, and all of that shit, you will not be one of these people. Your brain will actually start to function like a normal human again. You will start to feel that you're waking up much more refreshed. You will fall asleep much faster. You won't be overthinking the smallest things. One thing that I'm actually going to add to this, hold on a minute. Brian Johnson said this a few days ago, and it was the smartest thing I've ever heard. Whatever you think of the guy, right? I think this was really, really gold. He said, if you worry too much, before falling asleep or something like that, he said, why don't you just schedule it for yourself? And I was like, that sounds like the most retarded smart thing I've ever heard, because it's so true. If you can just give your brain to think about the things which you're inevitably going to think about, when you're trying to fall asleep, you're going to get it out of the way, kind of. So even if we're not even looking at this holistic, emotional recalibration kind of side of things, if your brain runs these laps of, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? Damn, I wonder what she thinks of me, the type of stuff your brain thinks about, when you're trying to fall asleep and, when you're worrying about things, just give yourself time to worry. Just delegate the task. Just be like, okay, I've got a free hour from 3 to 4. I'm just going to worry a bit then. Give yourself permission. The art of not being busy all the time. The not pressuring yourself into constant work until your work becomes shit. That's something to really, really appreciate here, I think. If you could just finally take a step back and actually look at yourself critically and what you're doing critically, and give yourself permission to go on walks without your phone, go to the gym without your phone, without your traditional coping mechanisms. If you could finally choose a lifestyle where choosing surrender is the natural choice for you, you will inevitably win at whatever you're trying to achieve.